Celtics Beat is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
What's up, everyone? New Celtics Beat. Thank you for hanging out, being here with us. We're going to cover a lot, and if you've been listening loyally, as I know you have to this program in recent weeks, I will do you the favor. I will tell you, because I see you. I look at the comments section on YouTube. I really do, and I enjoy your comments, whether you're with us, whether you're against us, whether you're dumping on me. I do not care. We love the engagement. We're happy that you're here and that you're listening. I will not do my whole Marcus Smart diatribe this show. I've done it several weeks in a row. I will not do it to you. I won't make you sit through it. Don't worry. We will skip it. We will move forward with all things that are Boston Celtics today. As long as Evan here, Evan Valenti back with us, can we got to try and keep him focused because he went to see the new Mission Impossible today, and it's pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, it's really all that you're thinking about right now.
No, it's not even a joke. Like, I'm ready to do an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it takes. Just go see it. If you're a Mission Impossible fan, you'll love it.
Check, please.
Tremendous. Tremendous stuff. The only thing I'll say is it would have been cooler to not know how the big stunt's done and just it got revealed to you in the movie. But other than that, very cool.
Well, your mission, Ev, if you choose to accept it, is to talk Celtics and NBA basketball with one Steve Bulpett from Heavy.com. Steve, thanks for being here with us again. It's I guess we're kind of riding the heavy wave right now because we had your buddy Sean Devaney on with us last week and here with you this week. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me on, I guess. Hope Sean was good. This is going to be kind of a come down from the Sean content, but let's weather the storm.
No come down at all. In fact, I feel like any time that you're on, we dovetail into physical fitness talk and staying in shape and bettering our bodies and all of that. Really, that's more you talking about that than me. I'm this is about as good as it's going to get if we're being honest. But Sean, I always joke with him when he's on that I do our intro there, and for some reason I always forget the .com when I'm promoting him, and it's like, and now here with heavy writer Sean Devaney, and it doesn't come out the right way each time. So I'm glad that we got that in for you. We got the .com in for you.
Yeah, no, it was weird. It's like I hooked on with Sean hired me for Heavy.com just after I lost like a lot of weight. I mean, I was, so I was hoping to, get a job with badgolfer.com so that my golf game would improve.
There you go.
Yeah. I got to sign up for that.
You're not at retirement yet. There's still hope. Badgolfer.com may come around for you. Okay, so obviously I want to start in a moment with the Jaylen Brown stuff. But first I feel like I need to thank the Celtics for giving me a good chuckle on Saturday night. For anyone else that's on their media distribution list, obviously you saw this, Steve. I don't know if Evan, you received this, but I tweeted it out just because it made me laugh. I get this anytime you get a release from the Celtics now, people are thinking it's going to be Supermax for Jaylen Brown, obviously, and we're not there yet, and we'll talk about that. But the headline, Celtics sign scrub. It's like a powerful offseason. Celtics have added a scrub. I hope he got the league minimum. You would think it'd be like the one time that they put the guy's first name in the press release at the top at the headline.
It'd be a good decision, I think.
Yeah, TLC's a big fan of the signing. That was the rumor, so to speak.
No, they don't want no scrubs.
Well, they should have made a sort of a pun on it. They could have done. I mean, there already is a pun, but they could have done something better.
Yeah, I mean, there was.
They were busy chasing waterfalls.
There you go. Nice.
And we've come full circle. All right, let's talk Jaylen Brown. The latest update from Adam Himmelsbach of the Boston Globe. So Jaylen Brown, as we all know, we're waiting for it. Been waiting for 2 weeks. He's eligible for the 5-year, $295 million Supermax contract extension. There are certainly sort of mixed beliefs out there as to whether the Celtics want to offer him the full lot of it, whether or not he would take less than the full. Obviously, I think most people believe that, one, clearly that's what he's seeking, but two, that he will get it, and therefore it's why the hang up. Well, we've got another delay. According to Adam, as I said, Brown he's overseas now, or heading overseas for an a NBPA, National Basketball Players Association organizational event. He's going to meet with the team again when he returns, but they've paused negotiations. But this is not any indictment of the status or where things stand, or there's a rift or anything like that. The deal is still expected to get done. Again, publicly, nobody has any qualms about anything. I guess what I want to start with here, Steve, is should we? I mean, is this weird that we've been sitting, waiting for the 2 weeks while some of these deals have gotten done around the league with, lesser players getting their super maxes, and yet Jaylen Brown's deal is not done yet? Is this alarming to you in any way?
Not really. I wrote a few weeks ago, actually, or a couple weeks ago. Time has lost relevance for me. That the Celtics, it would be smart to try to get a little creative with this. Perhaps an out after a few years. Something that an opportunity for Jaylen to get another bite at the apple sooner with new media contracts, potentially, get more money out of the deal, but also give the Celtics a way to reset their roster. If depending on how things look at that point, you can hold off on doing something. There's ways of timing that allow you to have some flexibility in configuring your roster. So I don't remember exactly all the different ways that they can do this or that were brought up in that story, but I think there's an opportunity for both sides to not just do like the straight deal and each get something out of it.
So I guess I'm wondering what that would look like. And what I mean by that is, I've made the argument that because that was part of the reporting, whether from you, from Adam, some other people along the way, that Jaylen Brown might be seeking that 5th-year player option, for instance. And I've made the comment that if I'm the Celtics, if you're willing to, because everyone's got their opinion, like they shouldn't give him 35% of the cap, they should give him 33% of the cap. Well, if you are going full boat, if you're going to offer the full freight to Jaylen Brown, as he is in all likelihood demanding, or at the very least aggressively seeking, then that's about as uncomfortable as you should be willing to make yourself. And in saying that, I guess I just mean I would hold firm on not giving him a 5th-year option, because obviously if he is in a position where he is interested in opting out to maximize his earnings further, it means that he's either outplayed his contract, as wild as that may sound financially speaking, or he is at least of the level where he could seek more money, be it from you or from somebody else, because of what the market dictates and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't do that if I'm Boston. I wouldn't give him that opportunity. I wouldn't, give up a year of control if you're Boston in that situation. But you're sort of presenting it the other way, where there's a team out here, which no one else has really talked about. And would Jaylen go along with that? Would he go along with some sort of a mutual out?
Well, I'm saying I think there might be an opportunity for each side to get something in a deal like that, because again, when the new TV contracts kick in, it's going to have an effect on the down the line. It's going to have an effect on the salary cap, and the max contracts are based on percentage of the cap. Mm-hmm. So there's money out there. I'm just actually calling up the story now, but yeah, I mean that's there are options here for both sides. There could be an interest for each side to get a little creative here. That's all.
Yeah, I just thought though.
Well, go ahead,
Kaufman, just because you have a new TV deal coming, and Jaylen Brown's about to be, for about 1 calendar year, the highest paid player in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So trying to make sure. I mean, I get why people are a little nervous about this, because it seems like everything surrounding Jaylen Brown is always more. There's always more attention about him leaving than staying. So I think people are just maybe just trained to always believe that Jaylen Brown's going to be leaving at some point, whether it's via trade or via whatever this is. But at the same time, you have a brand new CBA with all this new money coming in. I think it behooves everybody involved here, especially the guy who's, one of the vice presidents of the NBA Players Association to make sure that they do the right thing on behalf of whatever the next version of this contract is. I mean, Tatum's going to get one. Yes, 12 months from now, and it'll probably be a little bit easier because he's been 2 straight first team All NBAs. So that's going to be an easy, let's just sign this and get this over with. But, you're setting precedent here, Steve. It's, to me, as much as it might seem simple, I don't think it is. And I have to believe, and I don't know if you believe this as well, but that's the fact that setting precedent for next contracts. I mean, how much should we talk about? Nobody should have a no trade clause because Bradley Beals was used to just totally screw over the Wizards, right? Like that kind of stuff needs to be factored in here, I think, right?
Well, the Beal thing was crazy. They never should have given him a no trade, but he wasn't going to sign the max contract. Of course he was. They didn't need to throw that in there. I just called up the story I wrote a bit back here. And it was basically what was suggested was that you could give Jaylen a player option after 3 years and a team option after 4. Now, when we say 3 years, that's 4 years from now. So You're going to have him under control. He's got this next year is the last year of the current contract, then the max contract kicks in. So at that point there, you're going to kind of know, whether you want to, if he wants to opt out after 4 years from now, it's going to mean that he's in really good position, right? Means that things are going really well for him. And if they're going really well for Jaylen Brown, it's pretty likely they're going well for the Celtics also. But if not, then the next year the Celtics would have an opt-out. So, it's giving him something. Hey, it just is a chance for you to get out early, a year early, 2 years earlier than a full max deal, straight 5 years on to what you have now. And it would give the Celtics, an option too of getting out a year earlier than that, in case, hey, it could be catastrophic injuries. 1,000 things could happen. The team just might not look like it does, and you are in a need to rebuild, and you need flexibility. And he's obviously a tradable contract, but all those things factor in. So. Again, all I'm saying, and all the people that I was talking to then, the story came out at the end of June. The idea was there is an opportunity for each side to get something out of this if they want to be creative. That's all.
So I know you're not someone who's typically in the prediction game, so to speak, but how do you, if you were to forecast how you believe this will play out, what do you think? I mean, do you think we're looking at he gets the Supermax, the full Supermax monetarily speaking? And what you just outlined, I know it's just an idea, it's a suggestion, but what you just outlined is part of it, where each team, there's something that's mutually beneficial, or is it not going to go to that level where it could work out to be quite that team friendly as you outlined it?
Well, again, it would be if they get creative, it would be friendly to each side, right? So. Obviously, the fact that it's not done yet means they're talking about something. It could be incentives. It could be, what incentives are in the contract. But it's not just a straight, here's 5 years at the max. And because I think, if that's what was wanted, I'm sure they would have figured it out by now. But obviously, they're still talking. So, I have no idea how it works. I'm not sure what Jaylen wants out of this. Again, I would think the Celtics would want as much flexibility as possible, but how much is there? How much is Jaylen willing to play with this? So I've got no idea how it works out, but obviously they're talking about something if they haven't got it done yet.
And before I move on, do you have anything else on Jaylen?
Well, I find it interesting that here with Jaylen, there's a bunch of speculation, all this stuff, and regardless of what the numbers are, because again, this contract is going to get signed basically because the Celtics can't lose an asset for nothing, et cetera, et cetera. We don't talk about that. Again, it's more about Jaylen's particular role on this new iteration of the Celtics. Can he continue to grow into a better player? Jaylen has shown us every single year that he adds something. So, it's all about comfortability, banking on the skill set of Jaylen and his growth over the years. Can he grow into, he's been playing on a similar team with a similar style for a lot of his career. Steve, would you feel comfortable banking on Jaylen Brown being a little more adaptable as they can continue to add and tweak pieces around both him and Jason Tatum?
I know we got to tell the people, why we're here in the first place.
We're here in the first place because we're powered by FanDuel, and we're going to take a break to tell you today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel. We get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right, just $20, and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. It's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to over-unders to parlays to first home run of the game to this. Nobody's going to score in this inning. It's an amazing plethora of options for you at FanDuel, and it's all in that app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. FanDuel makes it so easy to bet on NBA, MMA, tennis, golf, and of course, Major League Baseball. It's America's #1 sportsbook that is FanDuel. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that people aren't looking at with the acquisition of Kristaps Porzingis is something I'm sure we've talked about in the past. But when the Celtics acquired Al Horford, it wasn't just what they got from Al Horford, which has been substantial, that benefited them. What also benefited them was when they went to the two big lineup, you changed the positions of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum became a 3, Jaylen became a 2. And all of a sudden now they had size advantages at those positions. And, you looked at the defense this year, the defense was better last year. And it's not just because of emphasis. It's because you had a bigger team. You had those guys with size advantages defensively. So with Porzingis, I'm pretty sure you're going to see double big, right? In some combination at most all the time, you're going to see, Porzingis, Rob Williams, Al Horford, 2 of the 3, most all the time. And that means that if with Tatum and Brown on the floor, they're bigger players now in their matchups. And yeah, you're losing defense in Marcus Smart, but that will help defense in a certain, for those spots anyway. So yeah, I think that will improve Jaylen right there. The other stuff Jaylen needs to improve is simple basketball stuff. I mean, it's ball handling, driving into traffic. I mean, that's basic stuff. When you're coming around to pick, when you're getting into traffic, you've got to get low. And it's simple physics. If you're driving and you're more upright, the ball has further to travel. That's more of an opportunity for a hand to get in, to whack the ball away, all those different things. I mean, there's been players over the years. My favorite example is Jameer Nelson, who made a living off pick and roll basketball because he always got low. You get your shoulders low, you turn the corner tight, it makes you faster. It's vector rules. Go back to your physics class. So yeah, I mean, all that stuff I think, should improve by Jaylen. But again, having the size edge. I mean, look, he clearly benefited by playing small forward this year because of the injuries that kind of kept the Celtics from playing the double big. It benefited him because whereas this coming year, they're going to go to positionless for all NBA. If Jaylen was playing guard this past year, probably would have had a hard time making all league and becoming eligible for the Supermax. So you got the benefit of that position switch, so to speak.
You alluded to some of this just now in terms of just talking about the bigs and new configuration and what they've lost, obviously, from not only last year, but years past when, Mark has been around, had been, the longest tenured Celtic, had been around forever. Grant Williams had been around for a number of years as well. Philosophically, the organization had preached defense, maybe more so than it will this coming year. We'll find out, obviously, what the scheme and everything looks like. I've been on the soapbox saying that I just don't feel like they're done. And maybe I'll be wrong about that, and I've been wrong before. It won't be the first or last time, but and when I say that, I don't mean adding like a veteran minimum guy or re-signing Blake Griffin or something like that. I mean, like I thought I expected a trade with Grant Williams, but I wasn't thinking 2 second round picks. I thought they'd get an asset back. I'm still thinking about, I just envision them still wanting to get off of Malcolm Brogdon's contract. I don't think that necessarily died with the deal with the Clippers falling through. And I know some have reported that some of those conversations have resurfaced. So maybe there's still something there. We'll see. I feel like there's something else coming that truly alters this roster, not concerning the Jays, but what's around them as they continue to build in that way. Do you feel that way? Do you have any sense of that based on people you've spoken with in your reporting? Or do you think what we have right now is more or less what it's going to be?
No, I felt that way when they made the move. The move for Porzingis, that there's more to come. But right now, I don't picture Brogdon being involved unless you get back
a guard,
primetime point guard in return as part of that deal. Last year, Brogdon was kind of a luxury to a degree, right? Here's this guy that's clearly a talented player that you're able to bring off the bench. And if it works, it works. This is great. If they'd been healthy all year, then we would have had 3 guys essentially for one position, right? You would have had Marcus, Derek White, and Malcolm. Sure, yeah, one of those guys is going to move over to the 2 on in the rotations or whatever, but not for huge amounts of time. But now Brogdon, without Marcus Smart, Brogdon is critical to this team, unless, like I said, you get something back in return that can approach that kind of productivity and consistency.
It feels more like a midseason move, though, Kaufman. We've talked about that. I think you take a step back and see what you got, and then it feels like the Derek White trade where they go out and add a valuable piece, and just where you can sit back and say, hey, we need it was a perfect, we need a connector, right? We need someone to connect the rest of this basketball team together because they don't have enough guys that are quote unquote pass first. So it feels like they're going to take it. They'll have this roster. They'll go into the season with the majority of this roster intact, and then say, come January, take a step back and say, okay, what does the landscape look like right now? Where are we in the standings? What do we really actually need? And it feels like, the Derek White trades, they'll pick somebody that they like and focus on that person. And if they have to pay a little bit of a premium for it, they will. And, it worked out for a lot of their trades so far, Derek White being maybe the best one. And I think at this point, you're going to maybe have to trust Brad a little bit for reading this roster because he's done a nice job with it.
So for anyone watching the video, I'm smirking a little bit because this is not how you meant this, Ev, but I'm sort of laughing at the words "take a step back" because you mean, take a breath, like collect yourself. Mm-hmm. But I hear that and I feel like they have taken a step back roster wise. They have taken a step back from what they've been. Do you feel that way, Steve, or do you agree with the odds makers who believe this team is better positioned for a championship than it was pre-adding Porzingis and losing Smart and Williams?
Well, it was hard. It's hard to see them being better positioned than they were this year when they, let the ground ball dribble through their legs. I still don't, I think it's hard to fathom what happened. But you see where it came from because we've seen it. We've seen the same thing in the past from this team, going away from the passing and cutting, going to ISO ball and at inopportune times, getting flustered when another team punches them in the face. All those things came into play. I think they're in pretty good position still. But as far as a move during the year, those aren't as available as they used to be, or to the extent that they used to be available, because in the past, before the play-in tournament, you had teams, the haves and have-nots were pretty well defined. And now you've got, the carrot out there for these mid to low-level teams that are, getting to January and saying, are we buyers or sellers? and they hang on to their players a little bit longer. Remember, NBA finalist Miami Heat was a play-in team and lost at home in its first play-in game. So, I think people might be looking at that. And the teams that are in that position are generally teams that are longing just to have a playoff game, even if it's a play-in game and doesn't count officially as a playoff game. I'm not sure how that one quite washes. But anyway,
Stupid.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure that the number of players that would have been available in the past they're going to be there now. But yeah, whether it's before the season or during the year, when teams get an idea of what's working, what doesn't. Yeah, I think there could definitely be moves with the Celtics, and they've got to see how this plays out too. It's a different, every year is a different situation, but look, the two things that I mentioned that to me are going to decide what this team does as of right now are based off the Porzingis Marcus Smart trade. You can't make a judgment now. You've got to tell me how many games is Porzingis going to play, and will he fit in terms of ball movement, etc., with Jaylen and Jason. That's huge. And now tell me what effect losing Marcus Smart is going to have on the rest of this team. I mean, it clearly, look, he was a guy they could count on to go and rip the ball out of someone's hands. He was a lunatic like that in a good way. But yeah, I think the way I wrote it was, it's like the 60s father, divorced father walking to the door and on the way out of the house, turning to the son and saying, "You're the man of the house now." So how do Jaylen and Jason and those guys respond to not having, the Rottweiler on the chain, or off the chain to, kind of correct mistakes or just stir the drink up for them.
Well, that is something we've spent a little bit of time on these last couple of weeks of shows, because since obviously the trade that I do think is really interesting is just this was Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's team before the trade. It's not like, it truly was this big three where Marcus Smart was equal parts the player. But, certainly in terms of being a vocal leader in the room with the media, whatever, like nobody is replacing Marcus right now that's on this roster that I see. Like Tatum and Brown aren't all of a sudden going to become that guy, at least outwardly with the media. In the room, I have no idea. I'm not in the room, but I wonder what this does for them. To your point, the divorced dad walking out the door is, there's a certain level of pressure on them now that wasn't there before, to where it's like, okay, guys, I know it was your team, but now it's really, you can't be deferential. Like there's no Marcus Smart to take the last shot anymore, just whether because he's open and you got it to him, or because the plays were drawn up that way or whatever. Like now, I mean, you guys need to make something happen. And I don't question their mental whatever in terms of whether they're ready for that responsibility, but I just wonder what it looks like, for lack of a better way of putting it, Steve. I wonder, like this we're about to see Tatum and Brown in a way, responsibility wise, that we've never seen them before.
They are, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are high quality defensive players, but they're not the, extend defense, get up on you. Actually, Jaylen was in that. He helped change the Philadelphia series by picking up James Harden in the backcourt. So, that's got to be more. I mean, we're leaving out Grant Williams out of this equation too. That's a factor as well. So, being able to rely on those guys for defensive energy, it's going to be different. So, you got to see how it plays out. You just don't know. I mean, it may be a net plus, when it's all said and done. But clearly, this team has to be able to go back, particularly when you're throwing up a bunch of threes. Okay, that's a mood swing thing that can happen just percentage wise. You know, that's the fallacy with analytics when it comes to 3-pointers. You don't hit them at the same percentage all the time. Okay, you go through lulls, and when you go through a lull, you can't just fix it with offense by saying, okay, we're going to look to the bucket more, or we're going to try to get better threes. You've got to fix it with defense. You've got to say, okay, we're not hitting right now, but they ain't going to score either. And you have to have that mentality. And I think this team, especially you saw when they would get off to really good offensive starts, they'd start leaning on that. And all of a sudden they let up a little bit defensively because, hey, we can't wait to get back on offense. Give me the ball. It's my turn. I want to score now. And all of a sudden the opponent makes a few shots, gets a little warm, and now you're in a game, whereas you were up by 15 points a second ago.
I'm glad you brought up the net positive thing, because this is a question I really haven't asked of you, Ev, or of any of our guests since this trade, because I've been, sulking in the corner. I've been woe is me about the Marcus Smart trade, because I just happen to think you are a better team with Marcus than without him. And that's not even a Porzingis thing. It's me wishing that the original trade with Brogdon had gone through and you could have had both. That's not the reality. But you brought up, maybe we will see at the end of the day that this not only worked out, but worked out for the better. There are loads of people who, we know what a polarizing figure Marcus Smart is. So there are loads of people in our Twitter mentions and the YouTube comments that are very happy to have shown Smart the door and believe that this is going to look better, that this is going to be a better situation with Porzingis, with White, Brogdon, with Tatum, Brown, maybe taking their games to another level, with what we have right now, with what we're looking at, with Jordan Walsh coming in and just being a terror of what he was at Summer League, that we are going to have a better Boston team than what we saw, maybe not even just last year, but in recent years, that somehow they've gone over the hump. They're going to win a title this coming season. My question for you, what does this look like? What makes that happen to where we are looking back a year from now and saying, you know what, Brad, you may have had doubters at the time, but right move?
Well, it gets back to the first thing we talked about with this, is that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum change positions essentially, because you're going to be going double big most of the time, right? And because you're, a guy like Porzingis has the ability to be like a wing player, part of his game. So, but you're improving their positions defensively. You're giving them size advantages. So right there, through nothing to do with Marcus Smart, but just those guys altering where they are on the floor and who their assignments are defensively, that could change things right there. I mean, that's why they were better defensively the year before this. So I think that's one way that it could look better. But look, there's a bunch of things that have to go right. And the biggest one to me is that guys have to have their head in the right place. There's no reason why the Boston Celtics should have got flustered in these playoff series. There's no reason why in hell they should have gone down 3-0 to the Miami Heat. That's just a team that, in the NBA, generally speaking, the more talented team shows through in a 7-game series. And that didn't happen in this case. And you can really argue it didn't happen in the NBA Finals in 2022. Seeing Jason Tatum, bringing the ball up against pressure against the Warriors, playing into the Warriors' hands, tiring him out, that made no sense at all. Again, something we've gone over before. I want to see if I'm the Celtics, I would want the ball in Jason Tatum's and Jaylen Brown's hands as much as possible, but more as finishers than as start to finish guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you taking the ball all the time and, running off the clock, then going to make a play at the end. Something I've written often, that one of the biggest dangers of ISO ball is that sometimes it works. And that lulls you into bad places. And again, having an offensive setup where Brown and Tatum are running off picks and getting open looks and not having to work as hard, driving through a car wash full of defenders. I think would help them out immensely. Those guys giving the ball up and getting it back would make their lives so much easier. But as we've talked about, it gets down late in a game, and it's not because they're jerks about it. It's like, hey, give me the ball. I want to take responsibility. I want to go make a play. Very gallant of you, but you've taken the team out of the offense and you've given the defense a break because they don't have to move as much now. They can just concentrate and collapse on you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a roster that's going to be learning each other again. Like, one of the things I liked about this Celtics team was the continuity they had. But this team's going to look different. I mean, they're going to be different on offense. They're going to have, people want to, talk about how Porzingis might add a low post threat to their offense. So I'd like to see that first before I say anything concrete about that. They're going to have to change.
He was better low post last year. I mean, he definitely his drives on closeouts were up. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all. I mean, it's fair. It's all. If you look at his shot distribution last year, it's still a good chunk of his shots come from 3-point range, which is what this team loves anyway. But at the same time, they're going to play defensively. They're going to play a little different. Like, they're going to play more. We had David Aldridge on here a couple weeks ago. So, it's like, yeah, Boston's got to embrace being a more drop coverage team. What does that look like when they have all these guys, around Porzingis trying to play a different style of defense? Can Rob still be as effective as sort of a rover guy when they play that? I mean, it's going to be interesting. And at the foot of all this is Joe Mazzulla coming off a year where he has gotten plenty of criticism for, I think, I think people are being a little too hard on the guy for his first year coaching in the NBA after a Division II coaching stint and getting a assistant staff that really wasn't his, and not having a veteran leader on the bench that he could really turn to. I mean, Damon Stoudemire left in the middle of the year. So, it all comes at the feet of Joe Mazzulla, who is going to be once again under the gun trying to put this together in his second year. And I think it's going to be a real big challenge, Steve. And I guess we'll find out if he's up for it. And he's got two guys behind him with Charles Lee and with Sam Cassell that could easily just take his job. So you got to feel, Mazzulla's got a lot of pressure on him. If he didn't have a lot of pressure on that last year, I think he's got a lot more on him this year.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I missed the Aldridge one. Dave's my man.
He's the best.
He's great.
Love him.
He's been telling people for years that he and I were the last cut from Miami Vice. Yeah. I mean, that goes back a couple decades, him saying that. Anyway, but I wanted to be the black guy.
Yeah, well, that's why.
And then Dave,
way to make it
say
happen.
something really nerdy, and I'd say, Dave, I would so be the best. Yeah. Anyway, very close friend. Anyway, so I'll catch up to that episode.
Yeah, we'll send you the link.
Joe Mazzulla, he should be under pressure because the guy only won like 57 games, right? And only got his team to the conference finals. And here's the part that killed me. I mean, obviously that's being facetious. Here's what kills me. The Celtics lost for the same reasons they lost under Ime Udoka and under Brad Stevens. So let's go back and retro fire them too for screwing things up,
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mazzulla is in difficulty. It gets difficulty publicly, I think, because he's a little bit awkward around media. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he gets that part of it yet, and how that, again, I don't think it affects his job because his job is behind closed doors, dealing with people, etc. But that's not something that should play into whether this guy is how his job is going, etc. I think it was a bright move for him to not call timeouts, especially early in the year. You want your players to be more self-reliant. And if it costs you a game in November and makes you better down the line, so much the better. But and by the way, many great coaches have had the same philosophy, making the players reliant, not having them look over their shoulder all the time, which gets you an extra second and a half of quickness because you're not, gazing backward. Joe, I think he did a really good job under the circumstances. I think, and I don't think there was a problem with his staff that he had too. It was trouble a little bit, losing a guy like Stoudemire. You're losing voices that can help you with players. But the guys they've picked up, I think they're in a position to have an even better year in terms of communication. And that's from Joe's standpoint, because he's able to sit back now and plan what he wants to do during the year. Remember, in Ime's year, everybody loves the fact that Ime was the tough guy, but he wasn't that until much later in the year. And he had Stoudemire and guys saying, hey, when are you going to get on these guys? And he was waiting his time because he wanted to establish a foundation of how he wanted to run things before he hammered them. So Joe Mazzulla didn't have the benefit of that kind of planning. So, I think the tools are there for them this year. And I think Joe Mazzulla is a really good basketball coach. And perhaps getting caught up with back and forth with silly media things, like you didn't ask me about my adjustments. You're the coach of the team. You're in the room. You're supposed to know more than the media knows. If you don't, then, take the real estate exam, I think Joe, I think he's a good guy, and I think he's a good coach. And I think he'll, if his trouble came in, and this is something I was talking about with other coaches at Summer League in Las Vegas too, just that, the big thing that he had trouble with was a little bit of awkwardness with media. And he's never had to deal with that on that kind of basis every day, game day, morning, pregame, postgame, etc.
After some of the coaching additions were hired, Sam Cassell in particular, was it Washburn we had on maybe, Ev? But we were talking about how, like, we were just kind of making the point, or I kept kind of harping on the point, like who, I just assumed like Brad Stevens, played a real role in making this happen, because Joe's only been around, at least in this position, for a year. He was, second row Joe before that. And he was, he never played in the league and had come out of Division II, like Evan said, and everything. And there was, it just didn't, I was sort of thinking, well, how's he going to go and do this on his own? Like, how does he have these relationships with some of these guys that obviously he's since added to his staff? And I feel like, and you've spoken to Sam Cassell, so you tell me, but some of these articles that have come out since, and from Brad as well, I feel like the organization is kind of like going out of its way to say that Joe facilitated this and Brad had nothing to do with it, and like these guys are here, but it's almost like they're, I don't know, that like they're sensing some sort of a fan or media disrespect of Joe, and they're trying to publicly empower him a little bit more. Or maybe I'm totally off base about that, and it was entirely Joe and Brad had nothing to do with it.
Well, let me point you to toward a heavy.com story from last weekend, a one-on-one I did with Sam. Mm-hmm. And what he said basically that they had friends in common, and that's how it came. That's how it came about. There was communication before this, and when there were obviously openings on the staff, Doc Rivers gets bounced from the Sixers, doesn't go elsewhere. The head coaching things don't work out for Sam, and this guy's available. I think it was perfect. I think it was a perfect situation, and I do think, this is according to Sam. He said, yeah, we had friends in common, and Joe wanted to talk, and that's how it came about. He said it was entirely on Joe. So that's not the team saying that, that's Sam saying that. And I think it makes sense in a lot of ways. I mean, Sam knows Boston to a degree, knows the situation. He's a huge Patriots fan. That was in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Delius Thomas that he's buddies with?
Yeah, it was Delius Thomas. He was friends with him because Sam's a Baltimore guy. And when Adelius signed,
that worked out for New England.
Yeah, renowned Patriot Adelius Thomas.
But when Adelius Thomas went to the Patriots, he got Sam his jersey from the Pats, gave it to him, said, "You're now a Patriots fan," and Sam took to it. to the point where I remember him telling me during the week leading up, I was on the phone with him during the week leading up to the Patriots Rams Super Bowl, and Sam is out in LA and he's just pissing off the Rams fans left and right because he's wearing his gear around and he's not being quiet about, you know, the Pats are going to win this kind of thing. So yeah, I think that was I think that was a good move. And something Sam brought up during the story with him is he goes, look, number one, he said, look, I can be hard with guys, but I'm going to tell them the truth. And they're going to understand that after a while. I'm going to put the coach's program across to them, but I'm going to tell them the truth. And again, something he said that was really important, really stuck with me was, he said, I can talk to anybody. He said, players like the top players to the 15th man. He goes, I've been each one of those guys. I've been all those guys. He was a 2-time champion his first 2 years in the league. You know, he's comes out and wins with the Rockets 2 years in a row. And then toward the end, he's like, we'll dribble for food, so he as a guy that can relate to these people. He's a talker. He's not going to, keep guys in the dark at all. They're going to have an open discussion all the time. He'll joke with them. He will bust their chops, all those things. But Sam's, that kind of guy. He's a good locker room guy, and you've lost maybe, one of those guys as a player. You pick one up now as a coach. And I think he'll be good in that role as well.
As you said, you were out there in Vegas, spent some time, obviously saw the Celtics, around here. People are borderline obsessed at this stage with Jordan Walsh and what we've seen so far. And so for all of the Brad did it again people out there that are on social media, just Twitter or Threads or wherever else, having their day with how Walsh performed, obviously, in summer league action. What'd you think? I mean, what were the main takeaways in terms of not only how he performed there, but more importantly, what kind of role he's going to serve here in his first year with Boston?
I'm not sure about his role here. Right now, it's a regular season thing you might be looking at. Is the guy who can give you minutes, a depth guy, perhaps. What I like the most about him, and it wasn't even his 3-point shooting, because I think it would be hard to project that in Boston. Not that he can't make the shots, but that he's not going to get as many looks. And shooters need, if you want to be a good shooter, you need touches, you need shots. And I don't think those shots are going to be available with the people he has around him here. Excuse me. Picked up a cold on the way back from Vegas. Anyway, I think the guy next to me had a computer virus or something. But what I liked about him was, whereas you see other rookies being interviewed, or you'd be on the scrums and talking to guys out there after games, and they'd say, well, people would ask him, what are you trying to do here? What are you trying? Well, what can you add to your team? Well, I want to showcase what I can do. It's like, and Jordan Walsh wasn't about showcasing. He was about like, I can go get the ball. I'm going to go up on somebody and make their life miserable. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got, he's not trying to showcase abilities, things like that. Look, guys come in the league, they want to prove that they belong. They want to establish themselves. He's got no illusion of how he belongs and how he fits. So if he gets 10 minutes a game, they're going to be 10 good defensive minutes. He's not going to be someone that, I missed a defensive assignment because I was bummed out. I didn't get the ball the last trip down the court. He's not going to be thinking that. I would certainly, from everything I've seen, I think this guy's got his head pointed in the right direction with what he's going to be needed to do here.
Yeah, pretty clear. He's I'm excited to have him around, and it's going to be fun watching him put on weight, because you look at him now and he's just real skinny, long 19-year-old. And I just kept thinking after a couple of games, like, man, this guy's going to put weight on. I can't wait to see him with the Jason Tatum shoulders. And
well, I mean, it's funny you say that, because what I picture is kind of what Tatum looked like when he entered the league. Mm-hmm. Like very, very similar frame.
He's going to put weight on.
Yes and no. I mean, quickness is the most important thing for him. right? He's strong enough, but quickness to get out on the floor and defend where he needs to.
Mhm.
The kind of guy that can switch out on the floor and guard people. That's going to be the key, not bulking up for him. I think he's, it's funny. There's a lot of talk about weight in Las Vegas. People looking at Wembanyama and saying he's just too skinny. He looks too frail. He's like,
Yeah.
Who else was really skinny when he was a rookie? Kevin Garnett, but
Yeah.
Kevin Durant too. I'm not even sure whatever happened to that guy, Kevin Durant. Did he ever make of himself?
He's still skinny, actually.
I mean, it's quickness is the huge asset for him. He'll get stronger, as his body fills in, etc. But I don't think you need to put him on a weight gain program.
That's fair.
Well, season's not that far away. I mean, I know we got more of these shows before we really get into preseason and all that stuff, but it always goes by very, very quickly. We're already into free agency by a couple of weeks. Jaylen Brown's contract inevitably is going to get done sooner than later. I'm skeptical it's going to happen before our next show, kind of the way things have been trending, but who knows? It's possible. Either way, it will happen. We want to alleviate any concerns that anyone may have. Don't feel troubled. Jaylen Brown will be a Celtic for a good long while. He will be paid handsomely to be that. And
but keep an eye out for when you see a move made. Don't just look at it for the basketball sense. Look at it for the financial sense, the second apron, all those things that you don't want to think about, but that are now a part of the reality. Just to bring up the story I did with Grant Williams out there. He basically said that he didn't think it was all financial. He thought that there was a parting that was coming between the two. So, excuse me, but the finances will play a role.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the stories in 3 or 4 years that say Celtics missed their championship window when they didn't win before the second apron was a thing. It's gonna, oh God, win, please win. All right, Steve Bulpett, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We will bug you again down the road as we always do.
Good to talk to you guys, and I guess I got to give up the 2-pack a day habit.
No, just don't go near any computer viruses and you'll be just fine. We'll send you that show. You can you and David Aldridge will have something else to talk about. All right, for Steve, for Evan Valenti, I'm Adam Kaufman. We will do it again next week and see what kind of news transpires between now and then. But knowing this show, something will drop in I don't know, in the next 3 hours before the show is published. We'll see you later.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.